Yo, what's up, everybody?
Happy
Uh,
birthday, Clint.
Thank you.
I told him, anyway.
It's my birthday. A long time no see, guys. It's been almost a year for me. You guys did this for a couple videos after. Um,
We did up until I think I was saying September somewhere. I think I remember posting the last video around then. But for some odd reason, the last uh review I can remember us doing was Uncharted. But you were there for that,
yeah,
so maybe it was all a dream and we didn't do anything.
We'll just call the period of time between Top Gun and whenever we stopped the dark ages of production meetings.
yeah, that's
The Dark
fair.
Ages.
The Clint
Yeah,
Lost era.
because hopefully we can get this going as much as we used to. So, because I have a lot of school to do as well. So, anyway, how are you guys?
Good, except for that this year of movies happened. So yeah. Let's just say I'm ready for 2023. Um, you know, can't get any worse or can't get any more meh.
And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh, don't even get me
No?
started. We're already gonna start on that fight.
You know, I'm excited
Thank you, Ryan.
I
because
I'm not saying I'm not excited. I'm not saying I'm not excited. I just think, come on, who here can say legitimately that that was a good title?
but here's the thing.
Thing is,
No, it's not a good title. Maybe it is. Who knows? But
I mean,
you know,
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, really?
Well, I can say I like that one a little bit more than this because I'm like, come on, what is this soap? Dial of
well,
Destiny?
you have lots of time to get used to it. And so I think it'll just be one of those things where it like we'll just see if it softens and kind of because I remember having discussions in 2014 leading up to 2015, leading up to the release of The Force Awakens. And now that it's such a common thing to say, and people were like, for no reason. I think I can't even recall exactly what people didn't like about that. Maybe it's just because the new Star Wars trilogy was bound to be the most hated thing ever by any fans. But
Probably.
people were ripping on that, and I was like, oh.
Well,
So
all I know is that Matt he saw the trailer for Indy 5 after I did. I was like, it looks okay. I'll be watching it for sure. He told me the epic tale of when he used to work at XYZ, whatever it was at the time that Crystal Skull came out, and he was working real late, and he was like, "Yeah, I was rushing to make the 11 o'clock show. Got my big popcorn, got my blah blah blah." And then he saw the movie, and he was like, "F that movie," and he goes, "The same feeling I had watching that movie is the same feeling I have about watching this trailer." He goes, "There's no good that can be happening from this." So, but
I
I'll
will
probably still be watching it.
wholeheartedly disagree. There's one good that came from Crystal Skull. It's killer score, and now we're getting potentially John Williams retiring after the fifth Indiana Jones, and I am just beyond excited to have Williams take us out and probably a below average movie. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good aspect of it. I'll agree. Yeah, leave on a hopefully high note.
Yeah.
I like how we were
Um,
like, let's talk about important things. No, Indiana Jones 5. That's what we're going
hey,
to talk
that's
about.
how
That's what
that's how these things go, man.
that's how
Anybody else got anything worth kind of throwing out there before we kind of get into our lists of last year?
I
Okay.
don't think so.
Okay. So, how do we want to start? Do we want to talk about our not top 10 or
Yeah, we should
our
do worse.
best? Yeah,
We should do worse.
that's what I
And
was thinking.
last year, we went around and did 10, 9, 8, which I think is fine. I think we should all just list all of our honorable mentions first. Dishonorable mentions, I guess, for worse.
Yes.
so you two are gonna have to do the not top 10 because I didn't see enough.
Didn't waste your time with bad movies this year? Come on.
No.
I will say too. I mean, I think I said this the last couple of years. Usually, I go out of my way a lot more to just see bad movies for the sake of it, just to kind of really experience what the best and the worst of the year had to offer. But this year, when we got like halfway through the year, I was like, I don't even feel like there were that many great movies, let alone good movies this year. Good movies, let alone great movies. So I did not go out of my way to look for terrible movies this year. So my list is probably a little biased of perfectly average movies on here because I didn't go see the worst movies of the year.
Right. Ryan, I think we actually should still do, 10, 10, 9, 9,
I agree.
because now it's just the two of us, so I think it'll go a little bit
No,
quicker.
I totally think we should. Should we just go through our entire honorable mentions list first? So I've got
Yes.
6. I don't even need to say anything about them. You want to start?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So my dishonorable mentions for worst of the year can be very interchangeable. Like I said, doesn't matter. This list is subjective. So least to greatest, meaning I guess greatest to least. 16 to 11.
Yes.
And Thor: Love and Thunder, Beast. Alex, you remember this one? The Tiger Rising.
Oh gosh, I totally forgot about that one.
I know you did.
I don't even think I finished it.
I don't think you did, but I finished it, and you didn't miss a thing. The Mean One. I did go out of my way to watch one more bad movie at the end of the year. The Grinch parody horror. It is in theaters, so it counts. Hotel Transylvania 4, which should have been on my worst list last year, but they wussed out and pushed it away from Addams Family 2. Ice Age, I don't know, 11, whatever Ice Age we were on that finally killed the franchise. Because rest in peace, Blue Sky Animation. That's it. Those are my honorable mentions.
Oh, that's so funny, dude, because I was like, oh my gosh, as soon as you said it, I was like, gosh, I remember that. It was so mediocre, Tiger Rising.
It was.
I mean, wasn't even on my list. That one's like a not applicable because I didn't finish it. I was like, it's not worth mentioning anyway.
I think that goes to like, there were a couple movies that I couldn't sit through. Also, like I didn't sit through like I have a list of the ones I didn't finish because they were just so bad. Paws of Fury, The Gray Man, Man from Toronto, God's Country, and Disenchanted. I fell asleep during Disenchanted, so I don't think it counts.
The only questionable one in that list, I haven't watched it myself, but I heard good things about The Gray Man. I heard that it was really good up until like the very final act.
As long as you don't care about characters and are fine with bad action sequences in a movie that just rushes along for no reason and has just vibrant color and particle effects everywhere, then it's a good watch. It took me 2 watches to get through it, and I couldn't get through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't watch it, so I can't defend it.
I'm gonna defend it a little bit.
Oh.
Did I think that it was a good movie? No. Was it entertaining? Yes.
I was hoping you would say no again.
Does it get entertaining when Chris Evans gets there? Because I never even got to Chris Evans joining.
It does, and I think because I kind of have to defend like some of the action sequences because it did remind me a little of Winter Soldier. Is it on the lesser end of Winter Soldier? Yes, but it does get entertaining when Chris Evans gets there because you're so used to him being Captain America and Steve Rogers and the good guy and stuff like that, and then he's got this douche stash on and he's just the worst person in this movie. And he does overact. I'm not gonna lie. There is a bit of overacting and not enough acting from Gosling, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I
think that's really who lost it for me.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I was expecting more being it from the Russo brothers, and the cast is amazing and stuff like that. Were there some questionable choices in this movie? Yeah. Did it need to be 2.5 hours long? No. Because it's literally a plot from every single spy movie that you've probably ever watched ever. So, but I don't think it was one of the worst movies.
No. I didn't finish it, so that's why I didn't even put it on the list.
Okay.
There's just some of the ones I didn't finish. I put it on the list because I was like, I remember enjoying half of Disenchanted, but I fell asleep and didn't watch all of it, so I can't count it towards anything this year. So
yeah, that is strange because there are a lot of those in-betweener films that just kind of don't fit into this category but don't fit into that category, and then some you just didn't finish because you didn't feel like putting them in either because it's what's the point? There are, and speaking of runtimes, I don't have this anywhere in my notes on any list because it just kind of it's one of those in betweeners, and I just recently watched it like this week. Um, it's not in, like I said, any category. I just feel like mentioning it because I went into it not expecting the runtime to be quite as long as that was Babylon. The whole Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Tommy McGuire. By the way, spoiler alert, Tommy McGuire's in it for 10 minutes. He's a producer on this. That's his role. um, but I could have sworn when I went into it, I was like, oh, okay, this is just a couple hours. No, it's a whole 3 hours and 7 minutes. And I was like, or 9 minutes maybe. But I was like, because I'm sitting here expecting, oh, okay, it's about 11 o'clock. We'll get out of here around 2, maybe. Or no, we'll be getting out around 1:30 at the latest. No, it's like 2:30 almost, and we're still here. And I'm like, how long is this movie? By the way, it's
Too long
that's
for
one of those.
anybody to go see.
Ryan, did you watch that?
Nope. I did not want to go see a 3-hour movie about Hollywood debauchery that critics didn't like on Christmas.
I this I for some reason remember this movie all the time. When we all reviewed Pieces of a Woman. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That was this kind of is one of those like this. I I say it is, but I say it also isn't at the same time. My thing about that movie, Pieces of Woman, is that I was like, that's the best movie I would never recommend to anybody ever to watch because performances were great, but that subject matter was woof. So rough. Like, I don't need to, talk about abortion, talk about adultery, talk about, infidelity. I don't need that stuff. But this is kind of in that same realm where the performances are solid and but here's like here's the focus of that movie. It's friggin' everywhere, man. I told you guys, I was like, if you want to feel like you just did cocaine right before a movie, go watch Babylon. Because yeah, but it's like Ryan said, you are seeing the you know the what do you call it, the less moral side of Hollywood and how it's. I felt like this was a Tarantino, but anyway, I'm talking about that too long. I wanted to just mention that as like, good lord, that runtime was too long. All right, so these are my, I guess, dishonorable mentions in no particular order. I also called this the meh list, like because I wasn't sure. At the very beginning of last year was the 355, with I don't know, Jessica Chastain and all the other
People.
women.
I'll refresh
It's
you a little bit more on it soon if you want.
yes, it was. It wasn't a bad movie. Let's not say it's bad. It just was very generic, and it was like, hey, this bad guy's kind of like, hey, or this good guy, he kind of looks like he's gonna be a bad guy, and he is. Oh my gosh, surprise! Great.
So the feeling that you get from the 355 is exactly the same feeling that you'll probably get from the Gray Man.
Uh,
It's
yeah.
interesting to a point, and then it's not, and then it's kind of interesting, and then it's just not.
See, that's the whole thing. It's like what makes a joke funny? You don't know the punchline. What makes a good story happen? You kind of it's not spelled out for you and like totally phoned in.
Right.
Yeah, that's what 355
All
and
right.
apparently. I mean, I guess I'm never gonna watch Gray Man then. Um, what was it? Blacklight, the latest Taken movie. Um, Let me first start off by saying, but that movie, or the title, it makes no sense. I watched that with my dad. Now, granted, my dad liked it. I thought it was okay, but I was like, this title, you could have called this Vengeance. You could have called it like Betrayal, and it would have matched just as good because, like, it's a little bit of a spoiler. I mean, if you want to see this, but you think he's like a forensics expert, or that comes into play in some point. Not at all. No blacklight, nothing. He's just a guy who kind of remembers stuff really better than a lot of people. And I'm like, great. This movie kind of stinks. So, but it wasn't god awful. Bullet Train, very meh, very meh. I didn't hate it. All of these are like I didn't hate them, but I don't ever want to see them again. So I'm good. That was very, very boring, very blah. And the comedy in there was so cheesy and like I I love improv comedy in general, but I hate it in movies. Um it just is always it's always a miss for me. And that's
Yeah,
very much improv.
stop being such a diesel, Alex.
Oh my gosh, Ryan. That yeah. Oh, he looks like a Percy. Oh, he looks like a yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That would
Does
have been a great
anybody
joke. Keep the rule of threes right there.
um I was like, is anybody over the age of 6 like caring about that these are Thomas the Tank Engine references? No? Yeah, then they probably shouldn't be in here. So, but I know some at least some that at least used to work at the theater who love the movie. So I guess it's all, um it's all relative. Ryan mentioned Beast. It's kind of just forgettable. I mean, I didn't. It's not bad, but it's also not good. The little girls. I hate judging child actors because they're up and coming. They're not going to be great, of course. Some knock it out of the park instantly whenever they kind of get into the biz. But these little girls were so bad. I hate. You could tell that they had no chemistry between themselves and Idris.
Alex, which did you like better, the little girls from Beast or the little boys from Doctor Strange? Because we know you hate children.
Oh, all right. He knows oh my gosh. You know what? I would take the girls acting over the boys because I hated that improv song so. It wasn't even an improv. It was Danny Elfman writing that. Oh my gosh, that was I hated that moment. I'm sorry, Ryan. I know you like that movie, but I hated that moment. Um, so no, but like the Lions going after Idris, and one of the girls is off trying to help somebody else, and one of them's on either inside the Jeep or on top of the Jeep or something. And, you know, Idris is under the car and he's got like he's in near arm's reach of a gun. And he's like wrestling this lion, and one of his daughters is like not in a very convincing manner. Like she's like, Dad, get the gun, Dad, get the gun, Dad, get it. I'm like, you need to shut up because he's what do you think he is doing? I mean, he doesn't need you telling him to do that. Oh, and the way she was saying it, like you could tell, like I know obviously that they're not in real danger. Like this is a movie, obviously. Hey, movie's got a movie. But like you got to do better acting to make me feel like you are in that situation. That's the whole point here. Like so, but again, it's child actors, whatever. So, Beast, see it if you want. You don't really need to. I threw this in because I kind of sort of remembered it. A dog with Channing Tatum. That was kind of
Yeah.
you could throw that away. It's kind of a dime a dozen. The dog's cute and everything. Most of the time, people will say, "Oh, the dog made the movie." I'm like, sure, sort of. Wasn't even that case. Like, the dog's cute. That's cool. Ryan mentioned Tiger Rising. Yeah, that's a pile of garbage that you can just throw away. Did anybody see Armageddon Time?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to categorize that movie because like I don't even know how to describe it because it's just so weird and it's unique but not in a good way. It's like that Anne Hathaway's in it and she's like the main character's mom and she does a really good job. Like performances are decent enough. That's one of the golden things about it. But like it's a story like I don't even understand how the title fits in. Like I don't get it. It was weird and just kind of a very slow, and you start off slow, you end slow, and you don't get anywhere. And I'm just like, why is this in theaters? This needs to be on streaming on like the back end somewhere. So, and we got it, and I had an afternoon to kill, so I was like, let me go see it. That's the end of my honorable mentions so far. Sort of. Let me say that my in its own category are two films. This one I can't judge harshly because it sets out to be exactly what it is the Nick Cage unbearable weight of massive talent. That's like it's like a TBD. Like it's a satire kind of making fun of Nick Cage's career, and they make fun of Nick Cage's career. So I'm like, that's what they set out to do, and that's what they did. So I'm like, I gave it a 5 nonetheless, but I'm like, I can't say it's bad because it wants to be bad, sort of. So that was in its category, and then the movie X. I don't think anybody here saw it. Oh, you did? Oh my gosh. So that movie is like so like cringy and like so like there's definitely some mature stuff happening in there. It's like it's it's almost kind of that it's bad. It's so bad that it's good. Like I almost want people to watch this and like experience what I did. Clint, thoughts on that?
Oh, I'll give you my thoughts later.
Okay, okay. So
Oh, it's
X
coming soon.
oh
This
gosh.
comes in.
X and unbearable weight were in its own category. So let's go ahead and start our not top 10 being 10 being the most tolerable of the movies. I'll go first. Um I felt bad putting in this there, but you know, it just kind of puzzle pieced its way in there. The Fantastic Beasts 3 movie.
Don't
Yeah.
feel bad.
Yeah, I wanted to like it, but you know,
Hey,
it was
any
just
movie that kills the series.
yeah. The writing is all over the place. It's like imagine you're riding a train and you're literally setting the tracks as you're going across them. That's what this franchise kind of did after one, and like
Yep.
making it up as we go along. And it's not the most god awful thing I've ever seen in my life, but it wasn't good. The writing's all over the place. They just had no idea where they wanted to go. So that was my top 10, or my number 10.
Number 10.
Yes, Ryan.
My number 10 is going to be my only bold call, I think, but I kind of had a feeling it would be on this list, and it's the one I probably talk more than I need to about. I'll skip through a bunch of the others. But Alex, I knew we would talk about this. I knew we'd have this conversation. So I'm not saying I put it on here for you, but boy, did I hate Uncharted. It is the most soulless, lifeless, nonsense, dumb action movie I saw in 2022. And it just reminded me that Tom Holland is nothing but a junior Mark Wahlberg, and neither of them are that good in anything.
Wow.
They both had a lot of good performances, but this is not one of them. I didn't mean, and I think this movie would have had me, except for two things. If a movie's only it's as good as its villain, it really throws away its villain by the end. Spoilers, but it's stupid. So, and this movie completely wastes my favorite composer, Raymond Djawadi, who turns in maybe the worst score of the year.
Yeah,
Outside of the Star Wars franchise.
you know, I mean, as everybody who knows me for more than 10 minutes will know that I love the Uncharted video game series, the franchise. I just it's up in my at least top 3. It could be my number 1. And I saw this movie, and it is not good. It is not a good movie, but I am definitely biased, and I wanted it. I just didn't want it to completely ruin what I know it to be. And I just, I guess I was hell bent on not having a bad time, and so therefore I did not have a bad time. So
No, and you're
but
right. I went into it and I was like, I want to hate this movie, and I did. And I hate saying that, but here we are at the end of the year, and I did not like it more than most of the other movies of this year.
oh my gosh, and
Whatever.
but you're right on everything. Antonio Banderas is thrown away, and then the next villain up is like, who in their right mind cares? And you are also right. It does a couple of the composition, the score is very like shoving in a couple themes of Uncharted, but in bad places and in very just weird moments, and it's like it's not good.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, I'll try not to go on too much about it, but like the Uncharted 4, Henry Jackman's score for it is maybe my favorite video game score ever made that I can think of off the top of my head. And I mean, if it isn't broke, don't change it. And it's like it's like between Jawadi and them, I don't know whose decision it was to introduce a bunch of like a new theme and a new style, and then make it not very interesting or good, and then try to incorporate Jackman's themes. I know Jackman wasn't the composer on 1, 2, and 3, whoever that was, but like try to incorporate the themes that the Uncharted movie series is known for. And I'm like, except now it doesn't even fit with the music you've written for your own movie. Now we're just shoving in themes that don't work. It's like the Mulan score all over again, which
Yeah.
guilty confession I actually own right over there, but not a good score. No, in the movie.
Well, as soon as they casted Mark Wahlberg for Victor Sullivan, I was like, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. They have zero clue. I was like, with Tom Holland, okay, yeah, maybe he can pass off the young Nathan Drake that we get kind of a background for in number 3. Maybe. I was like, okay. But Mark Wahlberg is literally being Mark Wahlberg and is nothing like Sullivan. And I was like, sure.
He's literally the Papa John's right now. Are we doing
Yeah, I'm like
back and forth 9, you do 9, or I do 9, then you do your 9?
yes, I was gonna say that. You do 9, then
Okay.
I'll do 9, my 9, and then 8, and then we'll just kind of keep going back.
All right.
Like that.
I will be quick here because I am pretty sure I'm the only person who sat through the Disney Plus original Cheaper by the Dozen remake, which is the third version of Cheaper by the Dozen, and the worst version of Cheaper by the Dozen, making the Steve Martin one look like a comedy classic. It is messy. It is bad. There's 11 children. I'll repeat that. There's 11. That's not a dozen. It is thematically messy and unfocused, and then just hard lefts, and just doubles down on like, how do we tackle racism? And I'm like, great, just what every kid wants in their family movie.
This was the Zach Braff thing, right?
Yes.
It was indeed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Their reunion, I believe.
Yes. No, that's funny you say that because I remember when you were mentioning this, when it first had come out, and you were saying all this stuff. I was like, oh, this has at least top 5, on it for
Ryan. If I had remembered it, but I have just done such a good job repressing it that I don't even care.
There you go. I guess that's the only.
By the way, I should also mention that when I rate movies, those numbers don't matter. Like Cheaper by the Dozen, is it one of the 3 worst movies of the year by rating? Yeah, absolutely. Is it? Do I hate it more than like my number 8 that I'll get to in a minute? No. So numbers don't matter. I can put higher numbers above lower numbers. It's all about the experience.
I agree. It's in no particular order. So my number 9, Ryan had mentioned it in his on dishonorable mentions. Thor: Love and Thunder was very, very. Now Christian Bale was solid in that. I agree. He was like the lone, like, cool. But I've well established myself as I don't care for Ragnarok being so improv heavy. I just didn't get it. And I am also very much seeing that I am not eye to eye with Wakai. What's his name? Yes, because like his involvement in Jojo Rabbit, I was like, I'm good. I know I share a little different opinion than some here. I get that. And then he was in Free Guy, and I'm like, I didn't really get it. Free Guy was, and then his both directions of the 2 Thor movies, I'm like, nope, not getting it. So it's just the same old thing, like, the whole running gag of him being, oh man, Mjolnir, I love you, and then Stormbreaker's like,
which
hey,
is the funniest bit of those gags in the movie, which isn't saying anything to me about the rest of those jokes in the movie. That was the only one I can remember being like, huh.
Yeah, it is funny. All 10 times you see it.
Exactly. Alex, the only thing that made it worse for me was that the one thing in that movie that they had more of than jokes between Thor and Mjolnir and Stormbreaker were screaming goats. And every time a goat screamed, I died a little inside.
When I heard it the first 2 times, I was like, that's kind of funny. Then, like everything else, it's just like, okay, we've heard this before. Stop. Just stop. So yeah, that movie, it was so disappointing. And I thought I had like I was in the minority of opinion for that being not great. And then the more and more I talked to people, like everybody thought it was disappointing. So I was like, oh, so yeah. I'm accurate here.
And that is actually one movie that I did see this year. Now I did see all the Marvel movies. As far as Love and Thunder goes, I didn't think it was that bad, but I think that it didn't have enough like focus on its characters. It's almost like they kind of brought in Jane and was like, hey, remember in the comic books where she has cancer and she needs to be Thor for a little while to kind of stop her cancer? Here you go. And then it's like, then you have this kind of like random subplot with like Valkyrie and her like sexuality, and it's just like,
Yeah.
see, and then it's gone, and it's like, oh, okay, that was weird. And then like the whole thing with like Thor and like his Mjolnir and stuff, it's just like, okay, like yeah, you're right. After like halfway through the movie, it was kind of done, and then you have this like amazing villain that they just kind of like it was almost flashes of. It was just like, well,
Mhm.
Christian Bale, like as amazing actor as he is, and I think that he like if they focused more on him being like an actual like put him and the tone of his villain into a darker Thor movie, I think that his villain of Gore the God Butcher would have been pretty amazing. But
I can't agree with you more.
I
Yes.
think that his like the tone of his villain just didn't match the story that they were trying to tell. And I I respectfully disagree with like your like I like Taika Waititi and I like his movies and I like his sense of humor, but you can't have Gore the God Butcher with like this really kind of light Thor movie. Like if you took God the Gore Butcher and put him in Dark World, then that would make more sense than that. And
Which
for
is
some
saying
reason,
something. We're comparing this to Dark World.
right.
Now, now I'm on record for I like Dark World. In fact, I think it's my favorite Thor movie. But I'll
I'm
die
on
on that
record
hill
saying
on
you're
my own.
wrong.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm in a population of one. It's okay, but I stand firm with the whole Love and Thunder. Yeah, the whole Zeus like avenue. That was the most dumbest thing. Like
Yeah.
it felt like they were like, all right, you know what? Zeus needs to be in a theme or in a scene. Okay, and just go. Just come up with just say whatever comes to your brain.
Right.
And that's what we got.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that movie
Anyway,
is irritating. So that was my number 9. My number 8 is and I firmly like Thor. I was like, okay, do I even put it on the list? This one, Lightyear. That's my number 8. Forget about the controversy of the whole same sex kiss. Like I don't care about that. That is so irrelevant to me. The plot sucks. Like it's boring, and the end result. Clint, did you watch it? Okay.
I don't
Well,
care.
I mean, okay.
I think
I was gonna say, do
I
you care at all?
no.
So you find spoiler alert for anybody who for some reason hasn't seen it, and why would you wait until this long to see it if you were going to see it? It turns out that there's like a past version or a future version of Buzz Lightyear that is Zurg, and it's like himself who's the enemy. And I'm like, that's dumb. I that doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid. And why isn't it a kids movie? Like, what? Now, if you said it was his dad or something like that, go the whole Star Wars avenue. Sure, it'd have been a copy and paste kind of deal, but at least it would have been at least makes sense. Like this was so stupid, and I did not care about it. I was like, and I can tell like there's people in your life that like they don't really have they're not as critical as us. Like they think everything's good. Hey, did you watch blah blah blah? Yeah, it was good. It really stunk. Hey, did you watch this? Yeah, it was okay, and it really stunk. Well, the group of people that I was with, the our employees, we all watched it, and like some that I know this to the T will love everything. He was like, "Yeah, it was me." I was like, "Whoa!" I never hear you say anything bad about a movie. Like you, so this movie was so boring and just blah. And again, controversy. I don't care about that. That is such a back of the burner kind of deal. So that was my number 8. Ryan, blow me away with number 8.
Okay. Well, I have a movie that I don't think we've talked about at all. I didn't see it coming in this conversation. It's Lightyear.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything you said. And for me, part of it is just uh, the existence of this movie is so confusing from the fact that
Yes.
it's supposed to be a 90s movie, but it doesn't feel like a 90s movie, and the missed opportunity that, and I even mentioned in this that, I don't think Strange World was garbage, but both Lightyear and Strange World really missed opportunities to feel like throwbacks. And Strange World, not enough marketing. Lightyear, way too much marketing. And by the end, no one wanted to go see sad, depressed Buzz Lightyear who's committed to space travel so much that his friends all get old and die. Every kid's favorite. There's literally
Yes.
one little robot
Yes.
cat, and nothing else is redeemable about this movie whatsoever. I mean, the animation, but like it feels like everybody in Pixar was made this at gunpoint. So I did not enjoy Lightyear. It took me like 3 weeks to drag myself to go see it. And the only reason it's not higher on this list is because I just don't care, and one way or the other, it is not good.
Yeah,
Um,
that's I share that same sentiment. Like, it's I don't hate this movie. I'm just like you. I don't care enough about it to get that angry about it.
and I will say too, not to just plug a bunch of lists. I did a list of top 10 worst villains of the year, and Lightyear topped that list for me. So, all right.
Yeah.
So rolling in my number 7. Now this is not the worst movie of the year. It is easily the worst time I had in a theater this year, which is the absolute snooze fest as David O. Russell's Amsterdam.
Wow.
Oh
This
yeah.
movie was so boring. And I mean that in every way. I don't mean like, oh, it's boring because of the drama. I mean, nobody cared about it. Like the actors in the movie are sleeping through this movie. There's a scene where there's stuff happening, and Christian Bale, I kid you not, turns to the camera, which is supposed to be screen left where there's a door, and he says, "What is going on?" And I'm like, is this in the movie or is this him asking what's happening on set? And I don't know where the line is. And by the end of the movie, I had no idea what was happening. Not because it was done badly, which it was, it's because I didn't care. I did not care. There's wasting time and there's wasting time. And this year we had some directors like Martin McDonagh's Banshees of Inisherin waste time so well. Amsterdam for David Russell, worst waste of time I had in the theater. I sat and just died for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I'm surprised I haven't mentioned that one too. I also watched it. I think we did a little tiny premiere for it. About 3 or 4 of us showed up, and yes, I don't think I hated it quite as much as you did. But that runtime is, while not the longest, definitely of this year, is way longer than it needed to be, and the payoff is nowhere near what it needed to be. I liked Christian Bale in this. Sure, he again, he's shining,
The
but
only
it's
good thing
that
about the movies.
yeah. But I thought the same thing. Like by about the 3/4 mark, I was just like, I don't really care what happens. I don't like this. This isn't engaging enough for me to care. Um, and it's definitely a case of too many cooks because they don't have, like, Ryan. You're saying people are falling asleep. I'm like, that's because they don't have anything to do in the movie. Like like Remy Malek. Like, what is he? What, I know he's supposed to be the villain at some point, but I'm like,
Academy
he,
Award winner Rami Malek just drug out
yeah,
for a couple scenes of the movie.
and then Robert De Niro. Yeah, he's all like coming in the
I
last half
kid
hour.
you
Like,
not. I forgot Robert De Niro was in this movie until just now.
yeah, because it's a case of too many cooks. Like, too many big. I knew as soon as I saw the poster that had, you know, Anya Taylor Joy doesn't have anything to do. She's like an assistant to somebody, and like that's it. Um, too many big. Who's the actress? Not the actress. The singer. Who's in it?
Taylor
Taylor
Swift.
Swift.
You forget Taylor Swift's name?
Yes, Taylor Swift's name. I often forget it. She was in the first 5 minutes, and spoiler alert, she dies in the first 5 minutes. Wow. Like, yeah. While it's not in any of my lists, it's kind of just because I forgot about it. But yeah, I share a lot of the same sentiments that you do about that movie. But that was your number 7, yes?
So number 6 to you, right? Or number 7 to you?
No, number 7 to me.
Number 7. Yeah. I know how numbers work.
This one's controversial. I know. because I've seen a lot of lists recently, and it's at least in the top 10, if not number one. But I need to watch it again, so this definitely will change things. But I hated Everything Everywhere All at Once. I, that was a free movie for me, being the theater employee I am. I almost walked out. I was texting you, Ryan, in the middle of this. I was like, this is making me hate life right now because this is so weird and so bizarre, and I'm not getting it. And I know it's visually it's awesome. It's so the effects are just like to the max, and I get that. So, but like at the end of it, I was just like I was so like put off by how weird it was. I was just like I was so close to just walking out, but I stuck through it and I watched it. But I own it. I own the movie because I've been told very vigorously that um the first watch is not great. The second time you watch it, it's spectacular. And I actually think I will agree with that when I do eventually watch it a second time, because I feel strongly that now I know that how the universes, the multiverse, work in that movie. Now with the knowledge I have of the plot, that'll make the earlier part of the movie that more enjoyable. Like I'll benefit from already knowing it. So right now it's in my worst list because just knee jerk reaction. I hated it. I hated the movie, and I couldn't get out of the theater fast enough.
It's fair.
So,
I mean, it took me 2 watches to get it up to where I have it. And
yes.
Rachel, it never grew on Rachel. She never liked it, and so I can see it. It is definitely an acquired taste at best.
Just know
So
I'm very upset with you.
with me, yeah, I know. I knew I was gonna be the odd man out here because all y'all loved it, and I was just like I couldn't care less about it. But that was my number 7. Number 6. This is like what Ryan's number 7 is. This was another like kind of murder mystery. It was See How They Run.
Yeah, I almost put this on mine.
Because what Ryan felt about Amsterdam is what I felt about this. This movie was absolutely boring. I couldn't care any less about it. And the whole time, indirectly, the main who's it? Sam Rockwell. He's like indirectly saying to the camera, or the cast in general is saying it, like, "Hey, all those whodunits that you've ever seen ever in your life? Well, we're way better than that. We're the best one you'll ever see. Like, we promise. Like, don't just take our word for it. We really promise." No, you're not. You
It's probably
literally
the worst whodunit of the year, in a year with like 5 whodunits.
Yes. And I was like, you are the exact same, if not worse. Like, you find out, Clint, have you seen it, or do you care if I say anything? Okay. I was like the bellhop who is like the whole play is modeled after, like, his life is modeled. The play is modeled after his life and his tragedies and everything. And I'm like, why do you work for the theater, the production company that makes the play? Then why? It's dumb. Everything about that is dumb. That movie. I don't know why I stuck around for that, because I guess maybe the whodunit would have been a lot better.
I can tell you why. I think that movie suckers you into watching it, because I remember watching the movie and I was like, the first 30 minutes, I was like, this is awesome. And then the next 30 minutes, I was like, this isn't very good. And the last 30 minutes, I was like, this sucks.
I will say I did like. I don't know the actress's name. She was a Scottish.
Saoirse Ronan.
She was a little delightful.
Sure.
I do like her.
She's always right.
I like her. She was kind of the one standout from an otherwise very forgettable and not good movie. So, but anyway, that was my number 6. Ryan, your number 6.
I won't talk about this too long because it's a movie we've already mentioned once. And I will say, as much as I didn't hate this movie on a first watch, sometimes it is all about, and we talk about this with best of the year. Sometimes you have to watch a movie twice to really appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, I won't get into it, but I ended up watching the 355 twice. And while the first time I got a good kick out of it, I was like, this is not good, but it is just a bad, funny, oddly made, like early 2000s spy throwback that has no right to be anywhere but January, which it was. And the second time I was like, I'm dead inside. I was like, I just did not enjoy a
Yeah.
single scene the second time around.
I mean, you watched
And again,
710.
oh my
It's a
gosh, yeah,
math
no
joke.
kidding. And I didn't know that it would be just so dull on a second watch. And so I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world or that it even deserves to be here. Just that I ended up watching it. It was, I would say, so bad it's good. I would say that. Not saying it's the quality is there, but it, I got a good kick out of the fact that at one point Diane Kruger raises a gun and the camera cuts to get another angle of it. And I'm like, the dumbest thing ever. You do not need two cuts for this, or one cut for this. You don't need two shots of her raising a gun. It's just so. And Alex, you already talked about the fact that it just spoon feeds the audience, and it spoon feeds us, and then asks us like, "Ooh, what just happened?" And I'm like, "Well, you told me. We know you have a famous person in here. We know what's gonna. It's just not good."
Yeah.
I won't talk about it too much because it's not worth talking about. Actually, neither is my number 5. Because I saw The King's Daughter, and I can't tell you why it was so bad. But boy, I can tell you it was bad. This movie was 8 years old when it came out in this past January, in a January full of the 355 Hotel Transylvania and Tiger Rising. And it might be the worst of the January bunch in the sense that it was just a Hallmark movie in theaters. And I don't know why they sat on this so long and didn't and actually got it in theaters. I can't necessarily tell you specifically what was so bad about it because this was it was literally almost a year ago when I watched this movie. But I can tell you it was bad enough to be my number 5 without any details.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch that because your review was so riveting that I was like, I had already felt like I'd seen it, and I was like,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Read that. I'm sure I'm specific. It put Rachel right to sleep.
yes, I remember you saying that too. And when I watched Mojo's top 10 worst movies from this year, that was, I think it was number 2. It was high up on the list. So, but that was what, your number 5. My number 5, and I know I'm probably being a little controversial with this too. I hated the most recent Scream movie. Scream 5 is my number 5. I know.
That's the one I might get on you for. Not everything everywhere. It's
I know, right?
Somewhere up here.
Because, and I know these movies, all of these, even going back to the first one, their whole thing is being self-aware. Like, we get it. You're kind of like referencing your own movie in your movie. And I get it. It's not the first couple, fine. It's done subtly and it's done for lack of a better word, tastefully. Like it's good. It's organic. But it happened like almost, it felt like what was the entire movie. They were just like talking about the movie that they're literally in right now. And I'm like, this is basically just a general table read, and you haven't even actually done the actual script read yet. You're just talking about the movie. So I was so over that after, a half hour. I was like, I'm good. And then they keep misdirecting you like, hey, this is the killer. No, this is no, no, you think it. Oh no, it's this person. And Dennis Quaid, or not Dennis Quaid, Jack Quaid being the main guy. I was like, with whoever else he was in cahoots with, I don't even care or remember anymore. I just like, I just sat there going, this sucks. But I'm also not a horror guy, so that doesn't help either. Yeah, I just remember leaving and having that movie just left a bad taste in my mouth. And now here's the thing, though. I don't dislike the Scream movies. Number 3, I think, sucks. 1 and 2 are solid, and I actually liked the 4th one that came out like 10 years ago, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
I didn't think that was bad, and and you know what? What's weird is I don't think that ending is particularly good, and that's kind of the main thing of those movies. But I still liked it. I don't understand how I'm doing that, but
I agree. No, I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
So yeah, and you bring back the legends, and they kind of just are like, here's Nev Campbell. Here's Nev Campbell. We're just gonna sit her right there. Not gonna do anything, but there's Nev Campbell. Like, great, cool.
But who needs Nev Campbell when you've got 2021's breakout star Jenna Ortega in her first of 4 fantastic performances of the year?
I will say that well, that's a controversial thing because Matt and I have both talked about this, and while I've never seen the movie that she references at the beginning of this movie, um, I still am like, nobody says this when the whole killer's like, "Hey, what's your favorite scary movie?" And she's like, what, the Babadook? And I'm like,
Oh,
both of us were saying nobody says that. You are pretentious. Nobody says that.
and I think,
So
see, this is why I can actually like come into this conversation, because I don't agree that it was one of the worst movies of the year. However, I did not like it because of some of the points that you did make, Alex, where it's just like you take your legacy characters, and I'm a huge Scream fan because that was one
I
of,
know.
like, literally one of the first horror movies I've ever seen. And so like it has like a special place. But it's just like you take these legacy characters, you like see them, here they are, and they have nothing to do until the very end of this movie. And it's like you're kind of like you kind of create this scenario where you have to have them there by the one death in the middle of the movie. And it's like, okay, if you didn't want them there, then don't have them there. This is gonna be a completely different Scream movie if you didn't even have them there, and it's pretty much what Scream 6 is gonna be. But and then, like you said, like I literally, because I've watched this franchise for so long, it's just like that's him, and they try so hard to be like, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, no, and then you get to the end and you're like, it is, and they're like, yeah, it is, and you're like,
That's how I felt.
I
That
told
was the
you.
entire movie. Yeah. Um. So I mean, yeah, but I mean, the studio's like, shows what you know. We're making Scream 6, so I guess I'm wrong.
But it
But
made
anyway, that
money.
was yeah. It did make money. I do recall that, and so I mean, I guess I'm just a weirdo then. My number four. Now, I bet all of you forgot about this. I have a suspicion that Ryan might sneakily have it in his list, but Moonfall.
Ah,
Moonfall. What an absolute pile of crap. Um,
And
and
why I
what's
opted
worse,
out that week.
so I'm also on record for saying that I love space movies. I don't typically think that I am, but like my number one movie of all time is Interstellar. I have a fascination with like space being the main what do you call it?
The
Uh
backdrop.
backdrop, but like also the main setting, just the main setting. I just have a fascination with it. It like I have like a soft spot for that kind of stuff. So I was, and this is in that realm, and I was like, based on that alone, and then the material that came for it, and I was like, man, this looks so good. But then I forgot about who's directing it, and so I was just kind of trying to put that off outside of my brain. This movie sucked. This movie was so stupid. Like obviously makes no sense with the moon falling in its literal name. But one of the most irritating things about it was like, hey, um, Keith, not Kiefer, Donald Sutherland. Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, he's this crazy
I
weird
forgot
old
that
guy.
too.
Yeah, he's in this weird scene right here, being a conspiracy dude. Hey, on the sky, and then you never see me again. Like that was one of the most weirdest thing about that movie. Yeah, I yeah, but I mean I hated it, but I also forget about it sometimes too, and I'm like, and then I'll just see kind of something that jogs my brain about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that movie was crap. Ah, so anyway, I mean I don't care about it really that much to go that further into it. So that was my number four. Ryan, your number four.
So I don't have Moonfall on my list. I did
Ah,
remember it because it lost like $300 million or something like that. But uh, it wasn't necessarily a guilty pleasure. It was just something I just stopped thinking about after March. Um, Something I have not stopped thinking about since it came out, which is big hype. Just to segue, it only came out a couple months ago. Disney decided to remake Pinocchio, and finally something that deserves to be on Disney Plus because it is crap. Uh, Tom Hanks completely phones it in. Luke Evans tries really hard and over the top for like a 2-bit part. The weird blend of 3D CGI and 2D animation, but done in a weird way, doesn't look done. And the only thing they managed to change seems to be for the worse, where in the same year that Guillermo del Toro says, you know what, we're going to have Geppetto get drunk, chop down a tree, and make a child of it, is we're going to change beer to root beer so kids don't understand that it's bad. And I'm like, shut up. You just, it is the most lifeless thing. And I think it's my second least favorite of the Disney remakes. Maybe worse than Mulan. I'm not sure. It's just so bad.
Wow.
The one thing I have to say about that is, in a year, like how we get a Pinocchio adaptation, and probably the average is every 5 years, 7 years, something like that. In a year where we get not one, but we get 2 of them, how is that Disney is the worst one?
Alex, let me tell you, we got 3.
We
There
got
was one
3
in June called Pinocchio: A True Story, which I believe is from Russia. I've never seen it. I've heard it's actually worse than Disney's, but I didn't. It was one of the ones I was like, I could catch up on this, and I was like, I value my time, so I didn't watch that one. But you know what? I have a feeling that even the still lifeless, weirdly dubbed animation of that film still somehow more blood in its veins than the Disney remake.
Yes.
And I won't spend too long because we've already covered this one a little bit. My number 3 is Blacklight. Not only is it a dumb title, this movie is the least intelligent movie released in 2021. 2022. We just left 2020. I don't even remember what year it was. See, I lost it a little bit trying to think of Blacklight. Just completely incompetently shot. And as far as story structure goes, the idea that the CIA guy brings out of retirement his friend to cover up something, and it happens to be the only person that could like reveal the secrets of this thing. I'm like, it's the dumbest plot setup I think I've heard in a long time. It is dumber than sending oil drillers to space to drill on a mine or on an asteroid. It is just the stupidest thing, and it only gets worse as the movie goes on. Liam Neeson should probably retire or fire his agent at least.
I forgot that was the main plot of that. I mean, you hire him, and then it ends up turning out that it was you.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
why wouldn't you just like? And he's like this old guy who can't do much anymore. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just get somebody else? You're the head of the CIA or whatever, who's so smart that he keeps all the CIA secrets in a safe in his personal house, guarded by like 4 guys. Anyway, dumb movie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that one stuck in your brain more than it stuck in mine. So I know that's why it's definitely on your list and up high too. So that was your number 3?
Yep, we're in the top 3 now. Alex, what's your number 3?
Oh, they're doozies.
How did we end up uneven here? It doesn't matter.
So my number 3 is Halloween Ends.
Okay.
No
objection.
So what's weird about it is that it's not actually as worse as the one as Halloween was the one last year?
Kills.
Evil dies
thank
tonight.
You. Evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. That's the
title. Does Evil eventually die?
Do you want me to tell you? I mean, well,
I don't care.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Clint. So this movie actually is not as bad as Kills. I that's not saying much because Kills absolutely, is a, piece of literal little garbage that's thrown on the screen. But so they do actually do something that's kind of interesting, but then throw it completely away. Is like they're making like Michael Myers the next generation. Like they're kind of like grooming another guy to possibly take the role. And I'm like, okay, that's where they're gonna go with this. And then they'll just keep making Halloween movies, and then somebody, like James Bond, and it's always just somebody new. Cool, great. I'm on board with that. I don't care. I'm like, it kind of makes sense. Like if you want to keep making money, do that. But they don't do that. And like what?
Yeah.
And Michael Myers himself is in it for what, like 10 minutes, maybe? If that. That's being generous.
No, I think you're right. I think for about an hour and 40-minute runtime, I think he's probably in about 10 minutes of that movie, and that's it.
Yeah. The story is just like blah. You think it's going somewhere, and oh, this was another thing. Another thing. I don't know if this bothers anybody quite as much as me, but I call it either emotional continuity or personality continuity. If you are angry in one scene and the next shot is like very soon after that, or like it's the same scene, but like okay, you're transitioning from like the main den to like outside or something, and like somebody's mad in this scene, but they're kind of not mad in the next scene. I have a huge problem with that because it doesn't. It's just it's stupid, and it's not good movie editing. It's bad acting. You don't keep your continuity. You're not keeping that same energy going through. So I feel like it's choppy, and that movie's all over the place with that. That's what I felt like, especially with uh the granddaughter, who whatever her name is, I don't even care. Like the main actress who um is like like Mike, the new Mike Myers, but who I thought it was going to be like her girlfriend, whoever the main actress is. Yeah, she's all over the place with it, and I hated it. And yeah, Mike Myers is just nothing. It just kind of ends in a whimper, and I'm like, this is what is this movie? And like we have no signs of a continuation anywhere. It just kind of is done. So it's like whatever. Um, but yeah, this movie sucked. All right, so my number two is, and most people would think that this was number one because we all absolutely hated this. It was Morbius. Ah, what an absolute! Oh my gosh, this
Alex,
movie.
can I jump in here with you?
Go ahead, please.
Because my number two is Morbius.
All right, our number two is our Morbius, and that's fitting because it is number two. Because this is bio crap.
Yeah.
This movie, and Ryan is fully aware that this movie was in development for so long. I mean, granted, a part of it was the pandemic. I get that, but that means that you had longer to work something together that was way more coherent, a way better story, way better cinematic editing, visual effects, atrocious. I mean, hey, this is a really cool scene where these two characters are really wrestling, and I can barely see anything until they slow it down, and they're like, "Oh, I can kind of see what's happening now." And then blah, 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 that you can't see a thing. It's so dark that like, what is happening here? And I've said time and time again that I'm not really crazy about Matt Smith. I'm even less crazy about him as a villain. He's a goofy looking guy. He doesn't portray a convincing villain to me. And I'm like, if he's in it and he's got some kind of little nugget of I'm kind of be a controversial character, or I'm going to be somewhat of an antagonist in some degree, I'm going to have a bad time because I've just never seen it, and it was bad in this, and it's cheesy dialogue. Yeah, this movie sucked. This movie, I mean, at first I gave it a 5 out of 10 because I was like, okay, I don't hate this, and then I thought more and more about it. It was like when we all watched Godzilla versus King Kong. Like I didn't hate that, but we kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and I was just like, guys, we need to stop talking about this because I actually want to keep liking this movie. But you're all making great points, and this movie sucks, and so does Morbius, and it just sucked. It just sucked.
I guess I might have an edge there because I started this movie as a 3.
Yeah,
and I won't add anything to it. There's nothing to add to this. It is incomplete trash. With not maybe, easily the worst put together post credit scene I've ever seen. It takes a lot to get Michael Keaton to sound like he's phoning it in on just a voice performance. But something to do with Spider-Man, I think. Give me a break. The only thing that I think can just be said about this movie, which everybody has said, is that this movie was such a joke that Sony thought they were in on it and released it again. And that is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard a movie do.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, and I mean, a lot of people. This happens here and there. I don't sort of fault this, but with this big, like So they when they released the trailer, they had a couple scenes here and there that were not in the final product, and one of them being like where you see like Spider-Man, a like graffiti Spider-Man or some type of logo, some type of visual thing that clearly Spider-Man is back there. Nowhere to be seen in this movie. Doesn't mention him, doesn't do it, and I'm just like, now if it were just a general scene that wasn't in the final product, okay, who cares? But come on, man. This is Spider-Man. Everybody wants to see how Spider-Man plays into this and how Venom plays into this and all that. Um, that just makes it even more frustrating. Hated this movie. But yeah, Morbius sucks. So that's our number
Yep.
two. Clint, did you see it and do you have thoughts on it?
No.
Okay.
Listen,
Like you
I'm
guys
gonna
wasted
say
time.
because listen, I knew this was gonna be the trash from the get go, and especially when they brought in Jared Leto, and I was like, oh Jesus. Listen, I'm the comic book fan of this group, and
Mhm.
I've read the Morbius comic books, and I knew from the get go when they tried to make him like this anti-hero slash Venom type. I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. You have to have him start off as a villain for some reason, and this is why. It's, it's just a jumbled mess because he's a vampire crying out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what?
I agree.
I do have something to add. Apparently, uh, I don't know. I usually like pitch like or used to pitch like really specific ways to like fix something. Don't know how this would work, but like maybe just take Morbius and just take the 30-minute material of it, and then just toss it on Werewolf by Night, and then Werewolf by Night can be a feature film and be on my best of the year.
Yeah, that was so good. Sorry.
So,
He's got a pitch. He's got a pitch. Hmm.
well, Alex, I'll
But
start if you want. That way you can end. Since I think I got the first one off, or
oh,
I don't remember.
yeah, I guarantee you that we don't have the same. Well, I don't know. Go for it. Number one.
I don't think so because I don't know if you saw this, but I definitely saw this, and I didn't expect it to be my number one. But thinking back on it, and I was talking about Amsterdam, but really, there was no experience more miserable in 2022 for me than Firestarter.
Oh yeah.
The Stephen King adaptation. I haven't even seen the '90s one. Haven't read the book, and from beginning to end, and I said this in Amsterdam, I was bored to death. But this one was met with even more disdain from the cast of Zac Efron, who's just not there, to long prolonged scenes of animal torture, to weird blocking around actors who don't want to show up at the same time, who don't matter at all, and it is just the worst produced film I think that should never even have gotten a theatrical release. The
Yeah.
only thing that was worse for me than seeing this movie was getting back and realizing I could have stayed home and watched this movie on freaking Peacock or wherever the heck it was. And
Yeah, it was
I had
either
to drag
Peacock
myself
or
out to go.
HBO.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think quality and quantity. This is the worst time anybody could have in a movie this year.
You know what? Yeah, I remember I knew I think you're right. It's Peacock. It got the theatrical and Peacock release, and I was like, this movie's not gonna make any money at all. I mean, it's a piece of crap. Um, and it's got Matt and Clint. Have you seen the original?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you and him probably share the same opinion where the original was just kind of okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not anything to write home about, but it doesn't suck either. And that it's just kind of like that's a weird movie to then make a remake of. Like, why would you make a remake of a meh movie?
Well, I
Um,
think to kind of like defend that is because, well, two reasons. One is because they have this like little Stephen King renaissance going on, and I think that it
yeah.
was, to your point, the original, because of the constraints of like the special effects and everything, because I think it was made in like '84,
Mhm.
because it stars like a young Barrymore, I think Drew Barrymore. So
Yeah. Mhm.
just real quickly, so because of the constraints and everything of special effects, I think that's number two is because now you're in 2022 and you have Avatar and like all the Marvel movies and stuff, and like you can create like these because the book is not actually that bad. The book is actually a pretty good book. So I think the idea was is like, well, we're in a Stephen King renaissance and we have all this money to do like all this like stuff. But from my understanding, what happened was is like they took too much of like one banking on it being like the Stephen King renaissance and not enough in the like the plot and like character development and was like, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, I started it at home. I was like, you know what? Let me try and see if I can, do this personal challenge of finishing this. And Ryan is absolutely right. It is mind-numbingly boring. That's what's the thing about it. I didn't think it was bad. It was just so incredibly boring. I didn't care anything about this. And like I saw that Zach Efron was trying, but the final product was just, who cares? This movie sucks. So maybe that's why I don't have it even anywhere in my mentions or anything, because it was so boring that my mind didn't even remember until you just said it now. Yeah, this plot, it's nobody cares. It's that I mean that's I'm saying it over and over. It's just boring. That's all it was to me. It was just so boring. I didn't care about it at all. Like, yeah. Yeah, it was not a good movie. I didn't even finish it. That's how bored I was with it. All right.
You didn't miss
But my number one. Now, I think a lot of people might not see this coming, but Ryan, I was texting you all as I was watching this. And Ryan is on record for saying it was the most disappointing movie 2022. Violent Night. Violent Night. I loathe this movie.
Is
I
this the
hated
Santa Die Hard movie?
it is a Santa Die Hard movie. Clint, this movie
without any of the fun.
sucked so much. This movie was so bad. Now, the reason for this is because what they were advertising it to be as and what the final product was, completely not exactly what I thought. So in my mind, it was going to be what's the guy's name? David Harbour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought like the entire time he's gonna be kicking butt, Santa style. Okay, cool. I'm on board with that. Make it John Wick, but with Santa. Sure, cool. But he's in it like he's in it for a decent amount, but like his character's not doing anything. He's just kind of like he's hurt somewhere for a while and then goes somewhere and then hurt for a while and then going somewhere. And I'm just like, this is not what I signed up for. And the dialogue is so cheesy. It is a Netflix movie that is just like, hey, we have to have something, like we have to have 20 movies out this month. That's number 21. That's what this movie felt like. I just was like, I hated every second. And I get it. People said, oh man, it's adult humor. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It's kid humor that the kid who is writing it learned the F word and S word just 5 minutes ago and wanted to put it every other word. So stupid. And John Leguizamo, I have nothing against him personally. I did this to try and prove a point. I looked at his IMDb page and I went through and maybe like one or two movies, and I don't even know them. I just remember going, that was okay. Otherwise, everything he's in, I don't really care about. I don't really like. Nothing. And I'm like, this is obviously no exception, because his tough guy, he's the main antagonist, and he's supposed to be this late 80s, 90s kind of cheesy, all right, I'm tired of playing games, gotta do. I'm like,
it's so outside his wheelhouse.
I loathed every second. Now there is a 10-minute mark in the movie where I don't completely hate things. It's what I expected the movie to be, like the entire movie to be. The 10 minutes, and there's this whole subplot of Santa when he was a Viking, and I'm like, what? And he has his own Mjolnir, whatever he calls it, like Widowmaker or whatever he calls it. I don't know. I'm like, what? Oh, I hated this movie. I hated it so much. I hated. I was when I was in the movie, and it was me and two other employees, and I could not help myself. I try to stay quiet throughout any movie. Um, I'm trying to be a normal person. I could not help but shout out, "This sucks!" like 4 times. I could not help myself. I hated this movie so much. Violent Night. It's very violent for me. So that was my number one worst movie, and it literally didn't get worse than that. So, well, that was a lot of fun. All right, now, do we have time to go through our top 10, like our good ones?
Yeah,
Any of the
let's go.
okay,
Yeah, let's go
okay,
through and give a few thoughts.
all
We'll
right,
just yeah, as long as we trim it to like, we'll just not get too carried away.
right. Yeah, well,
But
I'll just say a couple good things. So my
I
only
think on top one. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say my only my honorable mention is the Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie. I actually completely forgot about it until we were just like something just jogged my memory about it while we were recording. I was like, oh yeah, that was really good. That just kind of came out of nowhere, and that was pretty good. The references are insane. Like, who would have thought
Yeah.
some of these things? So,
Yeah.
um,
I'll say too, it'll be nice because I think I have a good feeling that we'll double up on a bunch of these. So
yeah, we will. I think we've already mentioned some of mine lower, ours are higher, and so on. I'll start off number 10.
Oh,
There's,
I have one
where you go?
honorable mention.
oh, go ahead, Clint.
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever. That's my honorable mention. Well, both Marvel. Well, I shouldn't say both Marvel movies because I didn't really like Thor: The Love and Thunder, but Multiverse of Madness is another honorable mention. It wasn't bad. Wasted its villain. Uh, I liked Wakanda Forever. I thought that like it. My only problem, and the only reason why I didn't crack my top 10 is because it didn't need to be a Black Panther movie. Like
Yeah,
not because T'Challa wasn't there, but it was just like it was almost like spoiler alerts for Wakanda Forever, but it was almost like towards the end of the movie, it was like, oh wait, we're a Black Panther movie. Maybe one of us should be in the suit. There you go.
yeah. You
And
know
I
what?
was
That's
like,
a pretty good point.
okay. But I mean, other than that, the movie was great. I thought it was a good villain. I mean, it was a sympathetic villain and stuff. But yeah, just having that moniker as being a Black Panther movie, I just didn't think that it needed to be there. I don't because with the end credit scene, we all know that she's going to get replaced anyway. So what was the point?
I will say, Clint, that I have an unfair thing towards it because when I went to go see it, I was like, okay, I've got this afternoon to myself. I can go watch this. And I must have been so extremely tired because I go in and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm just
there was
nodding
times
off
when
to
it
it.
drags.
and I was like, it does have some rocky pacing, and that does not. It never feels like the movie's fault. They
Yeah.
had like 2 years to redo their whole film, pretty much from screenplay on.
Right.
But what also didn't help me in staying awake is, and I don't know if anybody else agrees with this. I think the lighting in that movie was it was dark. It was not
Yeah.
making any jokes or anything. I'm like, it literally, like, so a little movie magic, projector bulbs get changed just like regular bulbs, just not as simply. But like they burn out, we got to get new ones. And so like if we have a kind of older one that's towards the near end of its life, the picture might be a little darker. It's not completely accurate, but it's kind of. But we had recently changed a couple bulbs, and like there are scenes with Namor and um
Sure.
yeah, and her mom, and I'm like, I can barely tell that he's there. It's so dark. Now, obviously, the scenes at dark or at nighttime, but I'm like, there's got to be some type of contrast where I can clearly make out where he is and everything. I'm like, this is really hard to see, and we got a lot of complaints about that. And I'm like, it's not our fault. It's literally how Disney did it. So,
Yeah.
but I that was kind of my like in betweener. I didn't have it anywhere. I just watched it.
Yeah.
So,
Number 10?
I'll fire through. Oh, good.
no,
No, go ahead.
Ryan, are you doing your honorable mention?
I have the full set of honorable mentions, so I'll be quick.
Whatever.
Because I quite enjoy having movies that I think were perfectly average on my list just for the sake of it. And so the honorable mentions I have from least to greatest, The Fallout, recommendation from Clint. Still one of the best dramas of the year, and the second of 4 great Jenna Ortega performances. Turning Red, awesome, should have been in theaters. I loved it. Didn't stay as well as I thought it would for me, but really enjoyed it nonetheless. I watched pretty much almost all of the Oscar bait movies, and Tar was the best one of the Oscar bait movies. Not one of the all-time best films of the year. If you're up for a 2.5 hour drama about a composer, but it was a really, really compelling one. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I really wanted it to be higher. I really, really enjoyed it. Fantastic. Looks great. It just didn't cut it this year for me. Avatar: The Way of Water did not make my list. I have thought about it as fondly as I have not. Just a mixed bag, and I still have to finish this list, so it might be on there later. Who knows? And Everything Everywhere All at Once was the most I've taken a movie off and on and off and on and off and on my list. And I ended it here because it's just I popped it on so many times and shuffled it out, and I like it a lot, but I don't know how listy it is. So for now, it's number 11.
Okay.
Or
Well, I
honorable
already did
mention.
I already did my honorable mentions. If Brian, if you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
jump into number 10, go for it.
Yeah, I can do that. Are we doing 10 and 9, and we'll jump twos?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, cool. I can do that. So yeah, thinking back on the year, I was like, what movies really stuck in my head the most? And this was not one that I loved when I saw it. I never saw it again. And just like The Green Knight last year, I have done nothing but think about this movie. And this year's was, I think, a very similar one in tone. Nope. Jordan Peele's Nope was such a fresh take on a genre that I didn't think could have more unique movies, especially from a grounded level like this one does. And it's just this weird comedy, horror, thriller, western, sci-fi. And even though it's very flawed and has a lot of nonsense, I enjoyed it thematically, and I cannot get over how much I love the treatment of the sci-fi premise without giving anything away. I think it was just fantastic stuff as far as its story structure and, dare I say, antagonist goes.
I very much agree. I had it as my top 10, or in my top 10 at number 10 as well. And then I've just recently watched more 2022 stuff. So that kind of shifted it down a little bit. My number 10, it was earlier this year. I know this is going to be higher up on your list later on. Belle. Such a nice looking anime movie and such pretty music. Now, and here's the thing. It's both subbed and dubbed, and I watched it in dubbed, and apparently that is way inferior to the subtitled version. So, and I still enjoyed it. It's the ending is not the greatest, but it's a kind of it's a Beauty and the Beast stylistic kind of plot, and I dug it, and I was like, this is cool. It's kind of a modern social media take on it. So I was like, I like this. And it's very engaging. I don't know the runtime, but it felt like a little bit longer than it probably should have. But at the same time, it was pasted well. So it's like I was like, I'm not getting bored at any point, but this does feel like a lengthy movie. I have to look up my list later on because I've done a lot of shuffling. I have to. You may see me black out here for a second to look up my list, but number 9, and I know this is what's up?
Hold on. I still haven't done my number 10.
Oh, my bad.
I think we were doing it in twos, but I didn't do my 9, so we have to do it in ones now.
I'm okay. My bad.
You're just
my bad,
just
Clint. I got
I
so
was
used
like,
to.
wait.
My bad. Go ahead, Clint.
He's just gonna run through his list.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm just gonna turn off my video just for a second. I'm gonna look up my list. Go ahead.
So my number 10 was actually
I want to hear
X.
what you have. Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, my number 10 was X, and it's not. Now that I put it there, I was like, wait, that's kind of funny. I actually enjoyed. I put it there, and I was like, wait, it's kind of funny. Anyway, so I actually like the drawback. I like the throwbacks to the 1970s Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like Freddy or Friday the 13th kind of throwback. The reason why I put it down lower is because lower on the list because I didn't really think that it needed to be that graphic, both sexually and like violently. I think they probably could have pulled off it being just as good as that for the throwbacks, with it being not as violent, but um, I actually really liked it. So that's my number 10. Am I going into number 9 then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll go
go ahead and do
backwards,
number 9. Yeah.
Okay.
or
My
we'll jump
number
around while
9,
Alex gets his list.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
My number 9 was actually The Northman. Um, I I really enjoy Robert Eggers. Um, the only reason why this one isn't higher is because it's basically Hamlet, and it's very visually it's very visually stunning. It's very well shot, very well acted. But it's just like some of the characters that were kind of used were kind of forgotten, and then we're just kind of like, oh yeah, remember this is supposed to be a Hamlet story, and like, um, I just maybe wanted a little bit more out of Alexander Skarsgård, just a little bit more character development from him. But technically and visually, this is a very sound movie and a very high recommendation.
Yeah, you'll hear more from pretty much both of us later on that.
Yeah, you'll hear more from Northman.
Yeah.
Alex,
All right,
want to
so
go
Ryan,
backwards?
yeah, so I went 10, 10, 10, and then he went 9, you go 9, and then I'll do 9, and then 8, and then we'll just kind of
Sure,
swing back
that
and forth.
makes perfect sense to me. So my number 9 is one I just threw it on here. I don't know if it'll stick on here, and I watched it. I told Alex before this. I spent the last couple weeks just trying to binge everything I think I missed. This was not on the list of things I was going to binge. It was just something I put on, and Matilda the musical from the UK, from the Bosch Thanksgiving release schedule, based on the Roald Dahl story that turned into the musical. Uh, I had a complete blast with this Netflix original musical. It's been a while since we've had like a traditional musical, and it is kind of the rock opera feel to it. But like beginning to end, I had a big smile on my face. It is a really fun, lively movie with great music and a really interesting story with interesting characters who are so over the top, but in the best way, and an unrecognizably terrifying Emma Thompson. I think it's absolutely worth seeing, and it's just stuck in my head now for the
Which
last
one
like
was it?
week or so. Roald Dahl's Matilda the musical.
Okay, because I thought I heard you say, I was like, I was waiting for the title, and I was like, oh, I thought that was a description of it. Okay,
Yeah,
my
no,
bad.
that's the name of it, Matilda the musical, and it's just honestly, I was like, oh, this is good, and then I was like, this is pretty good. I was getting all emotional, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm getting all feelsy over it, trying to cram other movies into the end of the year list, and those didn't make it. This did, so I got a good kick out of it. It was a good watch. I highly recommend it.
Hmm. Huh? I'll have to look that up. I've heard mixed things about it.
I mean, I will say, like, if you don't like the idea of like a kind of like a rock opera set in a school, like a middle school, sure, that can be told that novelty. You kind of have to be there for it. But I was so on board for like rebellious teenagers versus like a totalitarian, like oppressive school uh, leader, whatever they call the leader of schools, not principal, whatever.
I could see
We'll
that
move on.
concept not being
Headmaster.
appealing to me, but at the same time, like I could see how, like if it caught me just right, it might be entertaining for me.
Yeah. Watch
So I'm
watch the first watch the first number, and if you don't get a kick out of the first number, turn it off. But if you get a kick out of how weird the first number is, it's your kind of movie.
okay. Well, that's good because then I can know early on if it's for me or not.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
while we were talking, I've been kind of switching things around because I'm just like I feel like the NFL draft. I'm like, oh, a trade has been made. And I'm like, so I originally because I did like it. Ambulance is number 9. Now, is it a great plot? No. But does it have a ton of action? Oh, it does. I was sitting there with my dad watching it, and I was exhausted because there is so much that goes on. But I guess I'll now just push that back to an honorable mentions because I was like, you know what? I feel like I enjoyed Nope more than I enjoyed that, and that's my number 9 for a lot of the same reasons Ryan said. Just the general feel. It was kind of a quieter, kind of like super like these Jordan Peele movies have not had a ton of the supernatural. I mean, they have had supernatural aspects, but it hasn't been too great. And I'm like, see, this is kind of where I kind of live. Like I like the mysterious like beast like entity that is like out there and we don't know if it's friendly or not, and it's just kind of intimidating and threatening the entire time. So I thought it was paced pretty well. Um and overall it's dark, mysterious, and that just kind of appealed to me the entire time, and it didn't let me down. And so I personally think that this is my favorite of the Jordan Peele horror movies, because I thought Get Out was overrated, and I thought Us just left me like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. I walked out of the theater going, I don't know how to feel about what just happened. This one I actually felt pretty grounded in my opinion. um so that was no my number eight. I felt like I wasn't gonna put this on there, but it made me smile, and I liked all the numbers. Spirited. Um, it was a delightful little story. I mean, obviously it's Christmas Carol, but just twisted up. But the songs were original and they were catchy, and I like them. Like, I found myself listening to the soundtrack over and over again, like at least three or four songs. Because even what's her name? The main African American chick in it, Octavia Spencer. Yeah.
Probably.
So I think that's her name. I don't typically like her stuff. I don't really I don't really like the movies that she's in. But she had a really good number in this. And it kind of like trickled on through the movie, and it's a delightful little thing. So I recommend it, especially around the holidays. I don't know if it'll become a classic, but it's a good little take on it. So that's my number eight. What's up, Clint? So now we'll go to Ryan on his number eight, and then go to Clint.
Clint, you did 9?
The Northman.
Oh, okay. Right. Yes, yeah. I recall. Sorry. A lot of movies, like 30 movies to keep track of. Okay. So my number eight, I will say, as great as Matilda the musical was, I did have one movie of my end of the year catch-up movie stick. It was a movie that came out all the way back in March, and I heard nothing but amazing things about it. And then I finally watched it. It is the 3-hour Bollywood epic RRR, which you can watch on Netflix. And I'm sure this is one of the movies that's on every critic's list. And I was like, I guess we'll try this and see how this silly, over-the-top action, adventure, history, drama, romance, comedy, musical can fit on this list. And it is just the most insane movie I've ever seen. Probably not exactly, but it is nuts, but it lands all of those beats. I don't think it's perfect. I think there's actually, they make a big mistake when they transition to their second half. There's like a little bit of a pacing hiccup, and I don't think it quite recovers. But I mean, goodness, if you want to see like a guy throw an animal at somebody, like as a form of attack, or one guy like sitting on the other shoulders and they're just hitting people and shooting rifles, and it's like, okay, this is silly, it's over the top, it's dumb, but then you're like, wow, but this is a heck of a good story, and I'm buying the romance angle, and I'm buying the bromance angle, and I'm buying the history drama, and I'm buying the over the top two-dimensional villains, and it's just so great. I think it's absolutely worth watching. It is a long runtime, and I thought we would sit down and kind of watch it in chunks. And we sat down and we watched it, and we took one like 2-minute break. So it's great. It's great. It's as great as you've heard, maybe better. Definitely check it out. Yeah, that's my number 8.
I've heard all that stuff about it, and it makes me want to watch it. So I think I'm definitely going to do that soon.
If you've never seen a Bollywood movie, this won't hurt you at all. I have seen a small handful. Apparently, this is the director who did one of the others that I had seen that I also loved. So I was just kind of ready for it. But, whether you've seen some or not, just go into it.
There you go. All right, Clint, number 8 for you.
Number 8?
Yes.
This is where I'm sure that I'm going to deviate from you two. My number 8 was Good Luck to You, Leo Grand.
Don't even know it.
I knew it. So this movie came out in June, I want to say, on Hulu. And it was one of those movies that got swallowed up into the Disney Fox merger, and then they just kind of used Hulu as their outlet. So this stars Emma Thompson and I forgot the guy's name. But the whole movie is about an hour and a half long, and it's about a retired teacher by Emma Thompson, and she hires a sex worker, this guy, and because her husband dies and she's retired and she just wants to kind of like live life again, or from the start, it's just she just wants to have these experiences, and it's just about body positivity and just the connection that these two have, and it all takes place within like this hotel room, and it's like in 4 scenes, um and it's wonderfully acted by the two of them, and it's like I said, it's just like a very body positive, just like sexually positive, not having to be ashamed of anything, type of movie. And if like I said, if you like Emma Thompson, I love Emma Thompson as well. I would just give this a watch. Um, Again, it's not like the best movie of last year, but it's on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, I'd never heard of it before. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, Clint, you're making up titles now. All right. So that's not your number 8. So now you get to go again, and 7, and then Ryan, and then me.
See, this is where I'm going to deviate from you as well. I
Uh-oh.
actually like See How They Run. That's number 7 on my list.
Ooh.
Start throwing out grenades here. I actually liked it because I like the cast. Cast is great. Is the story left you wanting? Yes, obviously. But I like the cast. I think the cast made up for a little bit of it. I think the setting of it made up for it a little bit. It's just, I think that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, there are parts of it that are just kind of like wonky, but I like Saoirse Ronan. She's amazing. And like I said, I like the cast in the old 1930s like murder mysteries. So
yeah, I when you said it, I was like, oh man, but then I was like, you know what? I kind of know Clint's taste a little bit, and you kind of like, noir detective, and I
yeah,
was like, you know what? That kind of fits him more, so it's like I get it. So, you know. Well, I don't agree with the quality of the movie. I understand your how it's more for you than it would be for me. So, all right, Ryan, your number 7.
My number 7 is also a murder mystery, actually. And this year we got several murder mysteries, and I enjoyed some of them to some degree. But I think one of them stands just head and shoulders, whatever it's called, far above the others. And for me, that wasn't Ryan Johnson's new Knives Out movie. It's actually the little A24 horror comedy Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Okay, I'm okay because I thought you were going to say Death on the Nile, and I was going to be like, yeah,
no. This movie was a trip. It is not a comedy horror thriller that was marketed. It is a Gen Z murder mystery, and that is just the funniest plot going forward. And I enjoyed roughly every minute of this movie. It's ridiculous and funny and very witty and also dry when you start like empathizing with characters, but you don't know why you're empathizing with them. It's a trip, and I didn't think I liked this much. I said this with a lot of these lists. Like I watched it and I was like, oh, that was good, and then I've really thought about that movie for the rest of the year. On top of that, of the soundtracks for films, it was my favorite score for a film of 2022.
yep.
That goes a little bit towards.
I've heard kind of all those similar things before. I haven't heard the score part. I was like, you wouldn't expect that out of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
No, you wouldn't. It's this little 35-minute score by Disasterpiece, and it somehow dwarfed like the 6-hour runtime of Horizon. I mean, I'm saying compared to video games, but like for all the other films this year, it was the most unique score of the year. In probably, and I think it was because so many murder mysteries kept coming out, and I enjoyed Knives Out, but I even rolled my eyes at how traditional every murder mystery is, and this was the one that was different. and I enjoyed it the most.
That's pretty fair. It's kind of just came out of nowhere. It sounds like. Um. Okay, so that was your number 7. My number 7.
Your number 7?
My number 7, yes, is, and I actually just watched it today. Is The Whale.
Okay.
Yes. Now I was expecting this to have a lot of like, too many people are saying good things about it, and then it's like, oh, it just turns out that it's just okay. Brendan Fraser did an amazing job with this character. He was very sympathetic, and it was emotional. I didn't cry or anything, but I felt teared up a couple of moments. I was like, gosh, this, because he's gone through loss and everything like that. I mean, I won't say too much because it's still fairly new movie, so I won't give it away. But he's going through so much, and he's just trying to have a relationship with his daughter, and he's estranged a little bit. And while even though he's massively obese and can barely move, he's still positive and wants to just have a relationship with his daughter. And it just kind of gets me in these moments where he's really trying to make a connection, and she's just kind of a rebel, kind of hard shelled teenager, and she essentially almost doesn't want anything to do with him. And it's just like, I just see the like tenderness in there, and it just really just like didn't resonate with me on a personal level. I just understood, and I was just like, man, this just gets me right in the correct spot. So I was just like, what a great like performance. It wasn't hot air that what he was receiving from the premiere. Um just a great movie. The very, 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 very final part of the movie is weird. I mean, it's A24, so I knew it had to come up somewhere. But despite that, I still was like, the movie's paced pretty well. There's a couple scenes that I'm like, I don't need that, but great movie. I definitely recommend that you guys watch it at some point. Awesome performance. This is kind of like the one that gets him back on the map kind of deal, because it was also emotional because Brendan Fraser's kind of gone through some stuff for a while, so kind of resonated in that way. So, but yeah, The Whale, definitely check it out at some point. And I got to see it in theater. So, what's up, Brian?
I'm still here. I'm just gonna go wrangle a dog, but I'm still listening.
Okay, he's here in spirit right now. Okay, so all right, we're on. So my number 6. So my number 6, and I know I'm gonna get a little flack for this because it kind of is similar to a lot of other movies, but Smile. I really enjoyed Smile. I know it was like what's that one? Not hide and seek. Truth or Dare. Truth or Dare. That and It Follows. I know it was very similar to those, even though I haven't seen those. And I was like, I loved the main actress. I don't know her name, but her acting so good in this movie. And it was paced beautifully, in my opinion. I was never, sometimes I'll be looking at my phone during a movie, and I'm like, oh, okay, how much time do I got left? And I got about 40 minutes. Okay. I don't remember ever doing that once in this movie, not once. Um, but I was just like, and did you see it, Clint?
No,
Okay, do you plan on it?
not really.
Okay, I mean, spoiler alert is that, so this being like at the end of it, she kind of doesn't make it. The main actress doesn't make it, and I almost like the movie for that, because it's like, oh, if the hero wins, or the main protagonist wins, or makes it out, it's kind of like, okay, I saw that coming. But because she doesn't make it out, it's like, okay, you know what, you changed up the formula a little bit. I kudos on you, Ryan. My number 6.
Oh, I heard. I've been listening.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know if you
And you know
heard
what?
the
Not a bad pick. I saw it in a drive-in, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I told, and I was, as you probably heard, I know it's like other stuff, so it's kind of like a dime a dozen. But I haven't personally seen that stuff, so it was new to me, sort of, and I just enjoyed it. It was just a nice little
If
just nice little journey.
if that movie if that movie hadn't given away its best scares in the trailer, I might be on my list as well.
I don't. So I think that was the thing. I didn't watch the trailer,
Ah,
so I think I had that, as an advantage. So that was my number 6. So Ryan, you're back just in time. You're number 6.
okay. If I go in the middle, I'm never going to go twice. I'm just kidding. Um, okay, so my number 6, flipping from horror to horror thriller, The Menu. I I I kind of knew what I was getting into with The Menu, and I feel like several people didn't, and so I can see for anybody who didn't enjoy The Menu why it's such a kind of a weird pick. But from beginning to end, this movie was just probably the most fun I had watching a movie, kind of on the experience itself. And I don't know if it would hold up on a second watch. And I've intentionally, it's on, I think it's on HBO Max. But I intentionally haven't watched it again because I don't want to kind of tarnish the feel of it. I don't want to wash out the palate, the taste of it still, because I was just on the edge of my seat, and then I leaned back and laughed, and then I was like, should I be laughing? Everybody else is laughing, and then I was like, nobody in the movie knows if they're laughing or not, and it's just the best. I mean, I give Everything Everywhere all at once a lot of credit for a near perfect balance of tone, but I don't think it comes close to The Menu and its ability to kind of just turn on a dime from just such a
Yes.
great experience.
Clint, did you
And-
watch it?
Yeah, which is funny because it's actually my number 6.
Oh, there you
Oh
go.
my gosh. Well, I
Yeah,
will just say Ray Fiennes one of the best performances of the year,
Yep.
and I'll hand it over.
Very,
And
very,
Nicholas
very
Holt,
much
I
agree.
don't think that Nicholas Holt actually gets enough credit for this movie because it's like have you seen it, Alex?
Yeah, I have.
So being my number 6, the reason why I put it because it's an amazing social commentary on how much, and you guys know this, coming from the service industry, on how much flack we get of just being in the service industry and watching somebody being like basically taking everything that you've probably ever wanted to do and actually do it. Not kill anybody, but just like it's like
Sometimes.
yeah. But I mean, but I don't think that Nicholas Holt actually gets enough credit for his performance because once you find out in the movie like why he's invited and you watch then you start to think about his scenes earlier in the movie and you're like, dang, bro, like, okay. And he's just eating away as stuff is going on. And I'm like, wow. So, yes, I think that Ray Fiennes does an amazing job in this movie. He's an amazing villain every time. Anya Taylor-Joy is great.
Yes. There is a moment in that movie. I very much enjoyed it too. It kind of I didn't even think of it to put it in my honorable mentions. So this would have been one of them. There's that moment, and spoiler, this is a moment that happens in the movie, so skip over and for a minute. There's a moment where his sous chef has that one dish, and part of it is he kills himself. I literally didn't see it coming, and I was just like, when it happened, I was like, and that moment never happens for me. Like even if it's actually shocking, I don't go. I had that moment. I was like, oh my gosh.
What the funny thing is about that scene is though it's like because it's like he called it the mess.
Yes.
And they started rolling out that tarp, and then when he was standing there and he's starting to cry, I'm like, he's not gonna kill this kid, is he? And then he does what he does, and it's just like, wait, what?
Exactly. I think the same thing I thought. It was the thought of, is Ralph Fiennes about to kill this guy for the sake of no, he's about to kill himself. I think that was a shock. And that's great. See, and that's what the thing about knowing the punchline of a joke. If you already know it, then it's not funny. And that misdirected you so great to go and pull the rug from under you a little bit. So that's why I was like, oh my gosh. So I very much enjoyed that too. So it was a great movie. Definitely a recommendation to anybody who hasn't seen it. So that was your 6. Yeah,
that was my 6 as well. So my number 5 is actually Prey. I loved Prey. I thought it was probably one of the best Predator movies since the original, and I kind of give this one a slight edge above the original, just because of the fact of it being so simplistic. I mean, they take some of the great things that are about the first one without the technology, I would say. I mean, they even like went so far as to even push back the Predators like 300 years. So it's like their technology is even less than what it was when we first seen it. So the performances were great. Do I think the only knock to this movie that I could actually think of off the top of my head is that it wasn't filmed in Comanche to begin with. I think that
That's a
would have
problem too.
made I think that would have made this movie a lot better, so that they have, I understand it's a sci-fi movie about an alien race that comes to hunt people. So having them speak English was just a little, to me, it was just, it kind of took it out of the time frame of where they're at. So I think speaking in Comanche to begin with, I think would have been a better choice than having them all speak English.
That was one of the big. I still have not seen it myself, but that was one of the biggest gripes I heard about very recently. I talked about with somebody. They actually very much disliked the Prey movie, and I was like, really? I've heard everybody say it was really good. And they said, oh, this, that, and this. But that was one of the gripes, is that it's like you have this cool language that, obviously that's not English. So why don't they continue it in that? So it's like, yeah.
Because
I heard that.
I just a little spoiler, because I think it also takes the fact away from the fact that like even the French are speaking English. So it's like, if you speak English and they speak English, then
Yeah, there
why
could have been
can't
a
you
fun language
communicate with
barrier
each
there.
other? Yeah, it was just because like when they get to that scene, because obviously the time frame and like the place setting that it's at, you have the French trappers and the fur traders and everything, but when they get together, they both speak English, but they can't understand each other. It was just so weird. So that was my number 5.
Ryan, you all 5.
Oh, I'll get my controversial one out of the way. My number 5 was a movie that I loved right away, and I knew I would be really one of the only people to love this movie, because it is many things. It is flawed. It has moments that people did not like. It steps on the toes of other pieces of its franchise and property. But I went into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness wanting one thing: a Sam Raimi horror film. And for Marvel to deliver that thing, I was beyond impressed. Now, not, like I said, not perfect. I don't even think it should be my number 5, but it's just everything I wanted from it. I got, and it just washed away everything else that I didn't like about the movie. That's all I'll say. Danny Elfman's also a treat.
Yes. Aside from that, very, very lovely kids' rendition of "Mom, we want ice cream. Mom, we need ice cream. You'll love this song, ice cream." Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you.
One day we're gonna have to talk about your love of children and how much you just.
I love children. I hate.
Yeah. Except all of the ones in movies.
Yeah, just the ones that they shove in my face. Like, I don't need all that crap. So, all right, my number 5, though. I know this might be a little higher on y'all's list. It might not even be on it. Who knows? The Batman. There it is, right there in the back. Yeah, there you go. There's the advertisement right there. The Batman. Now, I have a couple things about this though. I did not give it a completely fair shake because we watched it at midnight. Very, very bad move because I was extremely tired that day. I think I had woken up at like 8. And so we're watching a movie at midnight. This movie is very drawn out and very, very dark, and not the fastest of paced movie. But it's one of I liked it because now granted, I like action scenes a lot in Batman. It's definitely needed, but this doesn't have that. But you got to see the Batman as more of the detective side of because that's essentially what Batman is. He's more detective than like crime fighter, So I was like, that's kind of a refreshing take on it. And Robert Pattinson did really good. The only weird thing I thought of was that he kind of like brewed steps everywhere, like do do do, like, oh my gosh, it's Batman. Like, okay, that's why this movie's like over 2.5 hours because he's friggin' walking everywhere. um, and then what's Selena Kyle's
Like Kravitz.
yes, Kravitz, thank you. She did pretty good. She didn't blow me out of the water, but I think she was a nice compliment to him, and they were nice pieces. Colin Farrell, you could. I still don't believe that it's him because he just did so good in the prosthetics and makeup department did amazing on him. Because I can't tell it's him. I still can't tell that it's him. Just a decent story, and I loved that it went with the same plot as the Batman Telltale series. I don't know if anybody here has played those. Fantastic. I love them. I'm so sad that there's only two seasons of it, but they kind of how they went with those is how they kind of went in this movie, and it's a good like not told plot, and I really liked it for that. So I was really into it for that. So that was my number 5. My number 4 is Avatar. I did like it a lot. Well, I didn't like it a ton, but I liked it enough. I visually stunning. It's really good. The characters are all nice. And the newer generation of Avatar of Navi, they're charismatic. They're interesting. Um, the one weird thing is, and I I almost never mind. I'm gonna skip this because it's still kind of a spoiler. For Clint's sake, I won't say it. But there is kind of a weird aspect, and you might be able to you'll probably figure it out pretty quick. But despite that, I like the younger characters. Um, I don't like the way they went with the villain because it kind of feels like we're retreading same water. No pun intended. And I felt like it was a little lazy in that. Like I really wish we could have done something different, but it is what it is. Music's fairly good. Um, the runtime is definitely not needed to be that long. It is, like at least a half hour too long because there are moments where it's just visual, like ooh water, and it's like after a while, I get it. But despite that, like I've only seen it the one time, but I really kind of want to go back and watch it again. There's something about it that it's just pulling me back in. Um, so, plus, I also watched that at midnight and with a Mr. Matthew who's not here, who good friend of mine, but cannot help but make sarcastic remarks every once in a while, and I'm just like trying to focus. But I do it too, so I'm not throwing him completely under the bus. But anyway, my number 4, Avatar: Way of the Water. Right.
So I was trying to think of a clever segue to like long-awaited sequels and kind of have this misleading thing. But simply put, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was phenomenal. Considering I liked the first Puss in Boots so little that I didn't even remember that the supporting character in this Selma Hayek's cat character was even a returning character. And not remembering that should hinder this movie, but I absolutely loved it anyway. The time they took between the first and second to really just not improve, completely change up the animation style, the story, performances is just a ton of fun. It might be because it was Christmas Eve and we missed our flight, and I just wanted something to watch. But that movie was there and comforted our stuck situation thanks to United Airlines. So great time, absolutely
If
great
I
time.
may ask,
Really,
where did you end up seeing it?
we saw it at this little place called Movie Tavern.
Oh man, I hear
So,
I hear some schmoes work there.
yep. So yeah, really great if you haven't seen it.
All the schmoes.
I had expectations for this. I had pretty high expectations for this because of just how much I didn't like the first one. But this movie
Yeah.
well exceeded those expectations. And I can't really say too much about it because the trailer is really clever about not giving too much of the story away. The first trailer, anyway.
Huh. I've heard generally that it's pretty good, so I'll have to check that
Strong
out too.
recommendation from me.
All right, Mr. Clint, your number 4.
All right, my number 4 again is probably nothing that you guys have actually seen. Vengeance.
Did
It's
I?
written and directed by BJ Novak, and it has
Oh yeah, Avengers.
Boyd
Yeah,
Holbrook,
I
and
wanted to see this.
it has Boyd Holbrook in it, and like Dove Cameron and Ashton Kutcher. And
Hmm.
so, for all of you that don't know out there, this movie is basically about a podcaster from New York that goes out to Texas to investigate a murder of a girl that he was like hooked up with like a couple times. But her family is under the impression that like he's like some long lost boyfriend and that they're entirely in love. The movie just kind of like shines a light on the expose of like some podcasting, um, true crime podcasting, and the difference between um, like East Coast, West Coast, rural Texas, New York City. It does a really good job of just kind of like being interesting on a plot that doesn't need to be that interesting. And by the end of the movie, I was just kind of blown away by like the ending of the movie, that I was just like, wow, this was actually really good. Um, I highly recommend it. Um,
Hmm.
it's on Peacock. So if you need another murder mystery, there's another one.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely wanted to check this out. I don't remember. AMC was probably showing it, being that they had
yeah,
more screens. But I wanted to see this, and I was hoping it was good. So that's another one to chalk up on checking out.
yeah. My number three is probably going to be on a lot of lists and a lot of like snooty lists. But the Banshees of Inisherin, that's my number three. Um, this movie is boring. Don't get me wrong; it is very boring. Um, but it's so beautifully shot. And I think the story of it, um, a lot of people can kind of relate to. Because essentially what the movie is basically about is a man that just wants to be remembered, and not have his life just kind of like wasted away for no reason. Um, and his friend that just doesn't care. He just doesn't care about being remembered. He just wants to be friends with people. Um, but Martin, it's very darkly comic. I love Mark McDonough. I loved In Bruges. I thought that movie was really underrated, and I think this is one of my like snooty pieces of film that I'm going to put on my top 10 this year. So,
Well, you said that, Clint. I think a lot of people do, and I know Matt and I talked about it, and he said it is phenomenally good.
mhm.
Um, Probably for those reasons you mentioned. So it makes me want to check it out now that I've heard two good reviews.
Yeah. I mean, the performances alone, I think, and just how, like, again, it's just very beautifully shot. Um, and I think the score was very well done. Um, but I mean, there's really nothing that happens in this movie. It's just trying these two friends trying to become friends again, or one of them tries to be friends again. But it's just very well acted and very well shot, and I actually did enjoy it. So that's my number three.
You guys are giving me so much fuel for later because I'm like writing down everything so I don't forget it for later, so then I can check them out.
That's pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I went the opposite direction, and I usually have a bunch of Oscar films on my year list. I didn't really enjoy a lot of them that much, and so I just decided to pick the biggest movie of the year, Top Gun Maverick, for my number three, just to be different. I'm just kidding. Everybody has a movie on their list, but I mean, with
Yeah,
good
right.
reason. It's incredible. I think it's a feat that it exists the way it is, and that Tom Cruise had it released the way it was, and then it made so much money. And there's nothing I can say about it that hasn't been said. So I'm just move on. It's great.
You know what? I mean, I'm gonna follow suit. That was also my number three. Really, really decently shot. The story's good. It's a little bit. I've seen it before. New Hope, and
What's a New Hope? Get real, Star Wars
yeah,
fans. Just Star Wars.
Yeah, no, Top Gun, A New Hope. Um, Now, despite that, it's really paced well. It's good for being a what is it, over almost 40-year-old movie, for kind of digging this up and you know putting a sequel on. It didn't kind of miss a beat. It was pretty solid, and that far removed, you definitely could make some bad choices here, and I'm like, okay, but it felt fresh. It felt, but also at the same time, kind of going back to the original, kind of giving us the same of what we liked, and then adding a little spruce here and there. So, I mean, it was popular for a reason, and it made a lot of money. So, I mean, yeah, like Ryan said, it's going to be on a lot of people's list. So, I don't have to say much more after that. Um, Now I'm gonna be in the loner here. This is where the video game of me comes out. My number two is Sonic 2. I I really liked it. I like that this one actually had a sense of direction this time. That's my opinion. The first one kind of felt like a tale of two different directors. Like they kind of wanted to go this way, and then they kind of wanted to go this way, and they didn't know if it was going to be successful or not. Being the first Sonic movie, so it didn't completely feel like they had a lot of focus. This one, now that they were like, okay, we know we can do pretty good, they add the whole Knuckles fish out of water thing, and original video game lore, and like, and it worked. And Idris Elba was actually fairly good as Knuckles, and I liked it. And it just, now there are a couple of scenes that I don't need. I don't need the dancing in Hawaii or wherever it was, wedding. I'm good without that. I don't care about that. But I took the bad with the good in this movie, and I really liked it. I really liked it a lot. I just remember sitting going, "Wow, this is just fun. This is what I grew up on." So I liked it, but I know I'm in the minority here, at least in this group. So Sonic 2 is my number two. Ryan.
That's okay. I've got Doctor Strange in mind and nobody like that, so I can't argue. Um, so yeah, it was a close call between my number two and my number one, and I don't say this is my number two because it's not as good. It just ended up being slightly, I don't know. I didn't cry as much, but because The Northman is not trying to make you cry. It is trying to do many things, but crying is not one of the things you'll do watching The Northman. And it is a wonderful, amazingly shot, well executed Viking fantasy epic, one of the best scores of the year. At first I was wondering why I liked such a cold, distant movie with these kind of caricatures instead of human characters, and then I realized that's what makes it so compelling. As you, I mean, Clint, you said it was that the fact that it was essentially a Hamlet, story was one of the negative things about it. That was actually one of the things I liked the most about it was how simple the story started, and then how interestingly complex it gets, where every character is like, this is not quite how I thought revenge would be, or this is not quite how I thought murdering my brother would be, and I just loved every minute of it, and I wasn't expecting this to be a such a heavy hitting fantasy as the fantasy side of me, and so I just absolutely love this movie. And like I said, the only reason it's not my number one because my number one did have me crying. So but yeah, Northman, just fantastic.
Wow.
Yep, it's a solid pick. Clint, your number two.
My number two is one of Alex's worst. Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
This movie. I loved this movie. And I think the only reason why I love this movie so much is because it kind of, the basic plot of it just kind of like hit me, because it's like, just to get personal for just a minute, it's just like sometimes I live with regrets, and I think that that's what this movie kind of does. It shows you always think about like, what would happen if I changed this aspect of my life or this aspect of my life, and where those threads would go. And I think that's what spoke to me. And then like the complete disconnect that she has with her daughter, and then to come towards the end of it, and how they kind of start to try to understand each other, and the distance between some, maybe like an immigrant coming for, and then somebody that's born here, and there's this the disconnect between culture and stuff like that. And I think it spoke highly well to all that. And short round. I mean, come on, who doesn't love short round?
Yeah, right. I mean, when you put stuff like that, it definitely I can see all of that being, A pluses and thumbs ups. So, um, I think I just couldn't get past the whole weirdness thing. But yes,
Yeah.
when you layer it down, yeah, it definitely has some good parts. So I will agree with you on that.
All right. So that does that mean that I get to my number one?
You get to go with your number one first.
My number one is the Batman.
Yes.
There you go.
Love this movie. Yes, it was.
Are our number ones all predictable?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mine? I'm sure mine's probably predictable. Anybody that knows
You
probably
maybe
understands.
a little.
You have
My
had
number
it,
one.
you have had it behind you for 2 hours.
I love this movie. This is exactly what Batman needed to be. A detective. There's no voice changers, no nothing. Him being broody, yes, of course. It's Batman. Paul Dano is a perfect Riddler. A perfect Riddler. He is literally second best to Heath Ledger. And it's like minuscule inches. The Dark Knight will always be my favorite Batman movie. This is going to be my second Batman movie. I love this. I can't wait to see what Matt Reeves does with this and how grounded and dark this can get. And I think that's where like Nolan started, and then what Nolan wanted to go with, but the unfortunate passing of Heath Ledger probably kind of skewed that a little bit. But I can't wait. I love the darkness of Batman. He's supposed to be a noir type of character. He's supposed to be a dark character. So yeah, like bring me on some more Pattinson or whatever.
Yeah, and I knew this one was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be number one, but I knew it was going to be high up for you because one, you're the comic book guy, like you said. But exactly what you said. I was like, it's noir style ish, and I was like, that is where Clint lives. He is all about like the noir detective kind of mystery. That's your thing. And I was like, this pretty much nailed all of that. So I was like, I wasn't surprised at all. I was just like, I didn't know if it was going to be number one, but I was like, I know it's going to be high up on his list. So, but that's good, man. I need to go back and watch it again myself. I feel like I feel like it could move even higher on mine. So, but Ryan, I have a feeling I know you're number one, but go for it.
You do. I've been talking about it since January. It came out so early in 2022 that it barely counts as this year because it was released in Japan in 2021, but it fell. I've never had an anime top my list, but I saw this and I didn't have high expectations, and then I ended up crying like twice. It is wonderful and charming, and the blend of animation styles is fantastic. And I've been listening to it all year. I have the vinyl over there. I bought it on Steelbook. Not sure. Anyway, it's great, and I just love the themes of it are so strong. And this movie tries to tackle so much story wise, and there's so much going on, and it does it with relative ease in a 2-hour runtime and wraps everything up in a nice little bow. Ends up being this wonderful, heartfelt film all about kind of selflessness. What started as kind of just social media look at it, and it's just heartwarming. If it were playing longer, I would have seen it again. So yeah, it's great. I haven't stopped thinking about it all year, and I think it just edges out Northman for my number one.
Yeah, and
speaking of which,
we all have had our number ones mentioned prior. So like I mentioned Batman, and then I mentioned Belle for you, Ryan, but then Ryan mentioned my number one at his number two, being the Northman. Oh, what a fantastic movie! I sat there and thinking, I don't know if I was texting you during or afterwards. I think I texted you afterwards because I was just like, I can't wait to share my thoughts about this. I was like, this movie's like, this is an 8, this is an 8, this is an 8, this is an 8, and then towards the very end of it, like you said, it got complex and like it just ended so beautifully, and I was like, this is a 9. This is such a solid 9. Um, the main thing that I was taking away from it was just Alexander Skarsgård, like the intensity. I just felt like the whole rawness of like animalistic, like just growling, and just like how it's all metaphorical, and it was just so well done. I just, and the whole Viking setting, that's been more and more popular in recent years. I'm right there with it, and I was just like, gosh, this is just fantastic. Very well done performances. Um, I was like, I could not own this on 4K fast enough. I needed this to me immediately, so I was like, I will give you whatever money you want. I mean, don't go crazy, but I will give you whatever you want for right now for it. Gosh, it was I was gushing over it for a while. I was just like, I wanted everybody I knew watch it. I was like, have you seen Northman? No, they're only 10. Go see it anyway. Don't see it. Yeah, wait a few years. But I was like, man, what just a one and the music is good too. It just adds that even more to the intensity. I just I just felt myself being swooned almost. And I don't gush over that kind of stuff. That's a Ryan thing. Definitely he notices that more. He notices that way more than, and he has an ear for it. And the fact that I heard it speaks volumes of how intense it was, and how impactful it was. So yeah, that was my number one. It was an easy number one. Everything else can kind of change around, but that was set in stone from the moment I saw it. I was like, nothing can beat this. So, and that wraps up all of our not top 10 and top 10 of 2022. I hope we've given some people some stuff to watch. I already have like 5 things I need to catch up on. Um, so, but anyway, last year wasn't even that great a year of movies, and we still found some gems. So hopefully this year will be an even better one. I have some high hopes. Um, I'm thinking, kind of while we were doing this, since the only upcoming movie this week is Megan, and I doubt that really a lot of us will be seeing it. I probably will. Yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
with that 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm gonna go see it.
well, I think it's a little odd that that actually is not rated R. I thought it was rated R this entire time, but it's got a PG-13 slapped on it, so I'm like, okay. But I was thinking, for if we can get together, um, within next week too, we can do kind of our most anticipated for 2023, since there's not really much coming out. It is being January and all, not really a lot of titles. So we'll kind of get that worked out and try and do that for our next video. So any final thoughts on anything, guys?
Nope.
All right. Well, this was definitely a lengthy one because we haven't been together in a while, and it's good to talk about a lot of stuff. So, but anyway, we appreciate everybody who's stuck around for so long. It was good to get back together, and hopefully we get this trending back up. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's fun to do this all the time. So, we will catch you all on the next video, on the next podcast, and we will see y'all later. Peace.